Hey Eurovision fans, it's Tom coming to you from Dublin. I'm back for another Eurovision reaction video. Today I'm going to be reacting to the results of Benidorm Fest semi-final number 1. So, let's kiki. So the first semi-final of Benidorm Fest, Spain's national final, happened last night. We had 9 acts and 4 of them went through to the final with a mix of 50% jury, 25% demoscopic jury and 20% public vote. The 4 acts who went through were Agony, Alice Wonder, Fusa Nocta and Megara. So first of all, I'll talk a little bit about the show, and then I'll talk about the 4 of them, and then I'll talk also about the 5 acts that didn't qualify. So first of all, I thought the production of the show was really good. We have seen some budget cuts in certain national finals this year, for example in MGP, where they've removed the LED and everything's much more shrunken down for the semi-finals. Benidorm Fest, it looked like a big stage, looked very expensive. I suppose that's the advantage of having the semi-finals and the final all in one week, is that you can use the same stage and just rent it out for the whole week and save a bit of money. So I like that as a formula. I like that Spain has this national final as well, where everything is condensed into 1 week, similar to San Remo. That gives a little bit of a special identity. In terms of the format, I thought everything worked pretty well. I didn't understand why they gave such detailed results in the voting sequence. Like, Agony won by so much that it's kind of ruined any surprise now for the final, because we know that he's definitely going to beat everyone else in the semi-final. We got to see, I'm not sure if there's going to be like a different point structure in the final, but the points that we were shown in the semi kind of made it obvious that Agony won the final by a long distance, and it's hard to see how anyone else who came second, third or fourth could compete with him in the final. So it feels now that it's Agony versus somebody in the second semi-final, which kind of reduces the excitement a little bit when it's kind of coming down to 2 people, as opposed to if they had just called out who qualified, for example, and then we wouldn't know who was number 1, who was number 2, number 3. So maybe they're doing that because they want more transparency, because in the past, for example 2017, there were problems with a lack of transparency. Overall, I thought the performance standard was pretty good. It sounded like there were a lot of issues with the microphones, as in the singing. The acoustics didn't sound great for everyone. When Sharon came on first, I thought, oh, maybe that was just her. But then as it was like almost everyone, it seemed quite apparent that things weren't in tune, or everyone sounded a little bit off key. I saw someone saying that the same thing happened in the first semi-final of last year. So maybe that's something they can tune up. But yeah, it didn't sound great quality. Nobody really sounded very, very great tonight. Apart from Megara, I actually thought Megara had probably some of the best vocals that sounded the most similar to the studio album. Everyone else had various moments where their vocals kind of broke a little bit. And I didn't have anyone who like absolutely blew my socks off. Like last year we had that Chanel effect where coming in, she was totally off my radar, and then when I saw her performance, it was like, wow, boom, this is absolutely amazing. So no one had that effect on me. But having said that, I was kind of reflecting and thinking, is that situation with Chanel actually more like a one in a generation thing where someone like massively elevates? I don't think that we should expect that every single year from Spain. Okay, let's talk about the 4 who went through. So first place was Agony. I thought this looked really put together. It had a lot of really cool ideas. I love the microphones all coming into his face at the start. It was a really interesting opening tableau. He had a red outfit, which I quite liked. I think it was a little bit gaudy, but it reminded me of kind of late 90s, early noughties music videos like Larger Than Life by Backstreet Boys and Scream by Michael and Janet Jackson. That kind of like big fighting, almost like futuristic set of armor. And I like that it was red as well, because that kind of brought in like a more feminine and soft side to this kind of like hard looking exterior. So I thought that was kind of cool. Yeah, it probably could have looked a tiny bit neater or something. Overall, I thought his performance was really good. There was one bit where he was singing where it was clearly playback and he was lip syncing. I'm not sure what the rules are this year, but we saw with Aritz as well that when he was doing his dancing, there was playback going on in the background, like quite clearly, because he wasn't singing. His microphone was in his back pocket. So the rules, I wasn't aware that the rules were that you could like basically stop singing at some parts during the song. That seems a little bit weird to me, but I'm not sure. Maybe that is the situation in Eurovision as well. Actually, if you know what the official rule is, please tell me. Otherwise, there was some good choreography. I thought during the faster choreography, he looked a little bit too slow, and I would think he could almost just say, look, I'm the king, you guys all dance around me, I'm the queen bitch, I'm just gonna stand here and look amazing. If he can hit that fast choreography, maybe just like chop it out or get other people to do it. But overall, I thought this looked very good. I'm not totally wowed by the song, but at least it's got like a very final looking staging concept. You can pretty much copy and paste this into Eurovision. It looks really interesting. It's fun. It's different. Yeah, it's different enough. I don't know how this would do in Eurovision. It's maybe I wonder, is it too esoteric? Is it a bit too camp and out there? I'm not sure, but I would kind of be interested to see how it would do as an experiment. He won the expert jury, second with the demoscopic jury, who had an absolutely wild vote, and he also won the televote, so he was very popular. Again, a little bit of a spoiler, he won by 42 points. Kind of loses some suspense for the final. Okay, in second place was Alice Wonder. I remember the first 20 or 30 seconds of this I thought was amazing. She had some beautiful crystals on her face. She had like a shroud over and she was playing the piano. It was really beautiful and intimate. And she almost had staging a little bit like Duncan Lawrence. She had these like clouds with thunder and she was at the piano. The first 30 to 40 seconds were really strong for me. I was almost like getting chills. This is a winner. But then it kind of went downhill a little bit. It just seemed a little bit messy. She came out and walked into the stage. Her vocals started to drop a little bit. Again, I feel like people need to only move if it means they are not sacrificing their vocals. That's another thing with Fuse and Octa as well. I felt when she moved, her vocals went brr, so it's like, okay, well then don't move. Get everyone to move around you to give the illusion of movement. Alice kind of was hitting some notes and not hitting others. I feel that's something that she can watch back and make changes with. Does she have enough time to make any big changes to her staging? Well, she's got 4 days. I don't think she's going to be able to like reinvent the wheel in that time, but she'll be seeing that really she needs to take a risk if she wants to jump over Agony. So I'm hoping that she can add in something a bit weird or different to kind of mix it up. I think it was quite a sentimental staging, but I didn't feel like it had that real out there weirdness that the song has. I was hoping for something like way more eclectic. Someone in a totally bizarre abstract costume interacting with her or something like that. It was just maybe a little bit too bland for what it had the potential to be. Okay, third qualifying was Fuse and Octa. Now, I loved the starting. She had this like long braid and all her dancers were kind of stroking it or braiding her long braid. It was really cool. And then we went up to this quite cheap looking car. I don't know why they couldn't have gotten, and I said maybe it was meant to be like a family, like old car. But yeah, it looked a tiny bit cheap. But at the start she sounded good. Again, similar to Alice Wonder, when she came down off the car and went out into the front stage, that's when the vocals like really went down and it started to sound very empty and it was very distracting from the performance. It kind of took me out of my being absorbed into everything. And just some of the camera cuts weren't great. Like when we were watching her walk back to the car, I felt like they could have filled in those little transition gaps a little bit better so it flowed a little bit more and felt a little bit more like a music video as opposed to kind of like seeing the behind the scenes. Okay, A's moving over here, B's moving there. Again, this is something I feel can improve a lot as well. I feel like they, like Alice, they need to add in something extra because they're so far behind Agony, they might as well take a risk. I definitely think she needs to move less and have everyone else move around her. She's got 5 dancers with her, so there's plenty of potential for other people to create dynamism around her, but she needs to stand still, focus on the vocals more, maybe have something wow happen 3/4 of the way through the song. I have to admit now, when I was watching this, I was getting slight like, oh, is this almost going to not qualify? And to be honest, she was only 11 points off non-qualifying. Okay, and the fourth qualifier was Megara. I actually thought they did a really good job. At the start, she was like in this weird future cage, and we had these dudes with pink TV screens on. I love that kind of nod to 90s computer game culture. I thought she was the first one whose vocals sounded like the most complete to me, like the most similar to the radio edit. And I thought they did a great job. Again, for me, the song is just, it's good, but it's just not wow enough. And I think that's probably why they came up, not a little bit short, but why they were in 4th place. You know, she was only 4 points ahead of Aritz, so they almost didn't qualify. But yeah, I really like this being the competition. I think it would be something very different for Spain to send a rock song. I can't think of any time. I presume they've sent a rock song at some point, but I can't think of it. So I would like that like slight change up. Okay, so the 5 artists that didn't go through, first up was Sharon. Interestingly, I saw an interview with her where she was talking about the difference between Drag Race, where you're just doing lip syncs to a playback, compared to what she's doing where she's really singing, and talking about how it's different. And that's very fair, because she can't just do like manic backflips and splits and whatever, because she's got to sing as well. Having said that, Shrellex we saw in MGP was able to do a really great dynamic show while still singing, but she had playback. So despite that, I thought that Sharon did pretty well because she was the first song, and like I said, there were those vocal problems with everyone. I thought that there were problems with her vocals, and in hindsight, actually, she did pretty well vocally. But while I was watching it, I was like, oh, these vocals are off. And it wasn't until I saw that all the subsequent people also had problems, I was like, okay, this is probably a mic issue. So I think that she did pretty well. The costume changes were probably a little bit clunky. You know, we had to pan away so she could take something off. It was kind of lacking that spontaneity that we see in RuPaul's Drag Race so often, where people just kind of go and the whole thing changes. I know in All Stars season, the All Winners season recently, they had a transformation runway, and it was absolutely amazing how quickly they could change their dresses. So I think if she had like a trick like that, it would have helped her a lot. The second in the draw was Aritz Aaron. Now, I kind of like the song. The song finds a little bit empty to me. It feels like it's lacking in a bit of energy that it needs. He got a lot of criticism for when in the last third of the song he kind of just put his mic in his back pocket and the playback was still going, he was still singing and did like a dance number. The dance number was really cool, but yeah, it didn't look great that he wasn't singing. I think it would have been better if he'd had one of these Britney Spears mics and at least made us think that he was singing, like actually just like lip syncing while doing it, which is very hard to do. I understand if you're like flipping people up and down while pretending to lip sync, that's very difficult. But it probably would have just gotten him a little bit more credence with the jury. He only needed an extra 4 points, so it's very feasible that he could have gotten those points from the jury if it was just a very jarring thing to observe. Suddenly he was able to stop singing and the playback was on, and then it kind of makes you think, okay, well, how much were you singing before? So that's not a good thought to put in someone's head, even if it's incorrect. So I think something like that could just be the difference of 4 points. I thought there was an enjoyable performance. He did very well in the televote. He came second. I don't think this would have done well in Eurovision anyway. I think it would have been pretty much guaranteed to be bottom 5. So maybe it's for the best that it's not a potential option. Okay, next with Sophia Martmutuki. This came last with everything. I have to admit, I agree. I think it sounded pretty bad. I have to admit, she handled it very well though. Coming last in each section is a little bit humiliating. The crowd were really getting behind her, which was nice, and I think that she handled it with a lot of grace. But yeah, the performance was pretty weak. It just sounded like a kind of like slightly switch your brain off, like totally comatose brain song. It just sounded a bit too empty. And also, this is a pet peeve of mine. If you've got an upbeat song, do not show the audience unless they're absolutely raving. Because when we were panning out, we were seeing the audience just standing there like playing on their phones, like ignoring her. It's not a hot look. Just, you need to kind of read the room a little bit, and unless you're absolutely and utterly sure that people are going to be like absolute dancing, just keep it close, keep the close cuts. I think that some delegations feel like there's an obligation that you have to show the crowd at some point. It's like, it's very rare that I think it adds to the performance, unless it's something like Moldova last year or Mercy Mercy, where everyone was doing the hands. I think generally don't show the audience. It just looks, it's very risky, and it's not a risk that tends to pay off. Even if it doesn't look awkward, it doesn't really add anything most of the time. So in 7th place was Malaire. I thought actually the song's kind of catchy. I think them being sandwiched between Agony, Megara, Alice Wonder and Fusionact was pretty cruel, but it also meant they got a later running order slot, which is better for the televote. They did very well in the demoscopic. I don't know what the hell this demoscopic jury was smoking, but I have a feeling that they're a group of twins from Barcelona, because they liked this and they liked Twin Melody a lot more than everyone else did as well. But yeah, I thought this was fine. I thought it was harmless. They performed pretty well. Had a little bit of a nip slip as well. Okay, and then last up was Twin Melody, Sayonara. I actually thought their vocals were quite good. They had very much styling like Dolly style from Melody Festival, and those kind of like pastel pinks, and I think they were wearing pink and blue. But yeah, it felt just like it was quite a childish performance, like targeted very much towards children and maybe horny boys. I actually thought their vocals were very good. In fairness to them, I thought it was probably one of the better vocal performances of the night. Just the staging didn't really have anything interesting or new, and it was just them with 4 extremely young boys dancing around them. So yeah, I just feel like maybe they should have taken a risk in some way. Overall though, I'm happy with that semi-final. I thought it was very good quality. Again, no big standout, and a little bit disappointed that we kind of know that it's only Agony who's got a chance to win. I suppose there's still the storyline of Agony versus somebody in the second semi-final, and we'll have to wait and see who that is. So I'm looking forward to the second semi. I feel like this semi on paper looks more stacked, like more of the good songs, but maybe that's because some of the people in the second semi have got some secret staging explosions. So I'm looking forward to seeing, I'm hoping that that's the case, because I want it to feel more competitive in the final, that it's not just the Agony show. I want it to be Agony versus somebody. I'm kind of a little bit excited now for Jose, who's my favorite this year. I definitely don't think he's going to win, but I think he's got a teeny tiny bigger shot now, knowing that many of the other favorites seem to have just kind of gone by the wayside. What did you think about the first semi-final of Benidorm Fest? Leave a comment in the comment section down below, and thanks so much for watching. I'm seeing another version reaction video very soon. Goodbye. Blah, 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 blah.